Hey there everyone, VideoGame Cabinet here, and tonight we're doing a review on Dragon Warrior 2 for the NES, also known as Dragon Quest 2 in Japan. I just spent the last week or so knocking this out on the authentic NES cart, and as for my review, Dragon Warrior 2 is an ambitious sequel that takes place 100 years after the events of Dragon Warrior 1. The story is simple in that an evil sorcerer, Hargon, attacks the peaceful cities of the three heroes, but it's very cool that you're playing as the descendants of the protagonists from the first game. Dragon Warrior 2 greatly expands the size of the globe compared to the original, and deepens the battle system by giving you 3 party members instead of 1. There were some really memorable moments for me throughout the quest. I loved when you find the ghosts at Moonbrook Castle and they tell you about the princess who's turned into a dog, and you need to show her the Mirror of Ra in order to turn her back human. It was also really nostalgic when you revisited the continent of Alfgard from the first game, especially when you see Tangil Castle, which was your ancestors' old castle, and Charlock Castle, which was the castle of the original villain, and in there you find his grandson. So that was a really cool moment. And another really mind-bending moment comes towards the end when you approach the final dungeon and it looks like your hometown, but you have to use the charm of Rubis to reveal that it is an illusion created by Hargon the sorcerer. I also like the little twist at the end that Hargon was actually awakening a demon named Malroth all along, so you have to fight him right after you fight Hargon. The large world map opens up a lot when you get your ship at the town of Liamport, which is about a third through the game. There's a great sense of adventure and exploration throughout, just like the other classic RPGs of old. It can be daunting at first to figure out where to go next, but the townspeople give you clues, as well as the CIB comes with a couple maps that detail where to find many of the key items. So, you know, this was very cool. It was this map here that showed you where the dungeons, where certain items were, and then the game also comes with this big map that has clues at the bottom of certain key items that you need. So that was really neat. And much like a lot of ancient RPGs of the 8-bit generation, there are some aspects of the gameplay that can seem frustrating at first, but can be worked around with certain strategies, and you can still have a lot of fun like I did. Collecting gold from enemies to buy weapons and equipment can seem tedious unless you use a couple strategies that I learned on YouTube, specifically from this video, You Can Beat Video Games. There's a lottery trick that you can use where you buy and resell antidote herbs, and they randomly give you lottery tickets. It's part of the game, and then you just sell back the lottery tickets, and you can make a lot of money pretty quickly. It's not cheating, it's just a money strategy in the game, and it works really well, and it works a lot better than trying to get gold from enemies. And yeah, this is key to progressing without too much level grinding at first. I've also heard a lot of people complain that the enemies don't give enough experience points and you gain levels too slowly in this game, but I did not find this to be an issue with the money tactics I learned early on to buy the best equipment. I only had to focus on serious level grinding in the very last area of the game, where monsters were actually very generous with their experience points. I spent about a dozen hours grinding at the very end until I felt ready to face the last boss, but I found it fun and relaxing to do so, and I've had to do the same thing with many other acclaimed RPGs, as well as certain Soulsborne titles like Elden Ring, and I love those games too. Some of the late game dungeons can still be rather difficult, even with heavy preparation, just like a lot of the dungeons in the Final Fantasy trilogy on the NES and Famicom, and I love those games. But with enough perseverance, you will make it through. There are a lot of dead ends in certain spots, so it's important to use the physical maps that came with the game, or online guides if you need to, or you can just learn all the routes through trial and error and level up your characters along the way anyway. That's not a bad thing, it's just the style of this type of game, so you should know what you're getting into. It's also a little bit annoying at first that there's no revive spell until you reach a very high level with one of your characters, but you can always carry a leaf of the world tree one at a time, and it can be replaced for free at a certain spot in the map. So I didn't have a problem with this. Also, sometimes I can see how someone might think that there's too many random enemy encounters with seemingly every other step sometimes initiating battle, or you'll go a long distance with no battle. However, there is a repel spell that one of your characters learns early on that brings down the encounter rate significantly and costs very little MP. So I didn't have a problem with the encounter rate. So, in conclusion, I actually had a wonderful time with Dragon Warrior 2, knowing the nuances of how to buy and sell goods to make money, and using the maps that came with the game. Beating the final boss gave me a great sense of accomplishment, and it was well worth the time investment. Dragon Warrior 2 was a big leap in size and scope from the first game, and it's remarkable that this came out actually nearly 1 year before the first Final Fantasy in Japan. I'm giving Dragon Warrior 2 a 9 out of 10. I think it's very underrated by certain fans of the series, and it's undeniably one of the hardest JRPGs I've ever beaten, and I loved it. The music was also very nice too. So, that's my review. I honestly really, really love this game. Like I said, it gave me that sense of adventure that I look for in a classic RPG of old. And I learned how to gain money early, and I had a lot of fun with it. And, I thought the game gave me enough clues to figure out where to go, and I thought it was really good. From what I understand, this is a black sheep for some of the fans in the series, and I can see how certain quirks with grinding and earning money and the difficulty spike towards the end could frustrate certain players, but I honestly loved it, and I think it's a classic of the 8-bit era. A couple other notes I want to make. I was following along with the You Can Beat Video Games YouTube video on this, but I also was using the maps that came along with the game, and paying attention to the clues that the townsfolk gave me. Like I said, he does use a couple really good trick strategies to gain money quickly rather than getting it through enemies. But there were a couple other tricks that he explains towards the end of the game that I did not use because I felt that was a little bit more along the borderline of cheating. I did not get the double water flying cloth, and I didn't do any tricks that he was talking about with the cursed weapons. There's a lot of glitches and tricks that you can do with this game, but the only trick that I was using throughout was trying to gain money early with the lottery ticket, and then there was one item later that would respawn that I would just sell and grab again and sell to earn money quickly. But yeah, like I said, I love this game. How would it rank with the other Dragon Warriors? So far, earlier this year, I started the series. I played Dragon Warrior 4. I thought this was great. I gave this a 10. Dragon Warrior 5, I played on the DS, and then I played it on a Super Nintendo Repro of the Super Famicom translated in English. Dragon Warrior 5, Dragon Quest 5, I give that a 10 out of 10. And week and a half back, I beat the first Dragon Warrior. I gave this an 8 in my last video review. I thought this was pretty good, but I think that the sequel here really, really stepped it up. So yeah, that's why I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. As for what's next, I guess the only logical game to play next would be Dragon Warrior 3, you know, and finish the, I believe it's called the Erdrick trilogy, because the guy in the first game and the heroes in the second game, and I'm assuming the third game, they're descendants of the great warrior Erdrick. And then I believe 4 kind of starts things a little bit fresh with a different mini trilogy. But yeah, so anyway, that's it. I'm very happy to have finally knocked this off the backlog. I really, really love this game. I really, really recommend it. I think it's very underrated by a lot of people that I've seen online, and I don't think the issues with grinding or earning money really affected me that much with what I learned how to play the game. And you know, and it's an old school 8-bit RPG, you know, so you know what you're getting into, or at least I do, and I appreciate that type of game, and I have a lot of fun with it. And I thought it was great. So anyway, there you go. That's my review, and have a good night.